Welcome to another Hollywood Times Live. Tonight, THT interviews Aaron Barnhart on his new book, The Primetimer Guide for Streaming TV.
Okay, well, I kind of wanted to know like your background and how you got into being a television critic.
Television was a pretty unexpected career turn for me, thanks to a new thing in the 90s called the internet. I had been kind of sloshing around in a office job and wondering what I was going to do as a failed graduate student with my life. And this was about the time that the quote-unquote late-night TV wars bubbled up between David Letterman and Jay Leno. And back then, the only way you could follow this thing, other than watching their shows, and back then that meant watching one live and taping the other on your VCR. The only way you could sort of keep track of this stuff was to read publications like Entertainment Weekly and whatnot, maybe look in your newspaper for news. And it just kind of like was a topic that everybody was very interested in. And I was participating in some internet discussion groups and thought to start putting out a weekly newsletter that collected all the things that we were talking about and posting to each other online. That was the origin of a little newsletter I called Late Show News, and it grew to about 12,000 subscribers in the 90s. And as a result of that visibility and my decision to kind of go wider and start writing about other TV shows, I was hired on at the Kansas City Star, and I was their lead television critic for about 15 years. Walked away from that, spent some years in the hiatus just watching TV like everybody else, and then about 3 years ago was hired on to help launch this new publication where I'm a senior editor called Primetimer.
Okay, that's very interesting. So can you tell us a little bit about Primetimer, what their goals are and what they plan on doing as far as the television world?
Primetimer was started up by an editor at Yahoo back when Yahoo was one of the leading purveyors of news on the internet. His name's Jed Rosenzweig, and he's launched some other sites and said to me, you know what, I really miss the old TV-based websites, the kind that wrote purely about TV for people who are always interested in knowing what's on. All the other sites seem to have gotten gobbled up into these multiverse gaming oriented sites, and with TV really being a sidebar. And the reality is that TV is the show. Everything else, Top Gun may have a weekend and we'll talk about it for a while, and then Top Gun goes away. The place where people who really want to tell stories are going and have been going for some time is television, because there are so many options out there. There are so many channels putting out this content, and frankly, that's where the audience is. A lot of us have cut the cord and are subscribing to 3, 4, 5 or more streaming channels. So that's where we go to, expecting to see quality entertainment. So TV is where it's at, and Primetimer is really trying to make sense of that for its readers. We understand that there are hundreds of new TV shows coming online every year, a lot of shiny objects flying by, you get a lot of promos, and it's really hard to sort it all out. And what's more is that those algorithms that everybody has are of no use to finding something that's on another guy's streaming channel. Netflix won't tell you what's good on Hulu, but Primetimer will. And then that really is the basis for our guide, is that while we understand the value of having a website, and our newsletter and our Primetimer podcast, so that you can keep track of what's coming along and sort out what might be a show you would be interested in. We ultimately reached back in time to those great old video guides that everybody used to put out as the way to sort of put the best of the best between two covers in a way that would help people trying to discover things who are tired of continuously scrolling with their remote.
I struggle with that myself. Did you find yourself like struggling with that, like especially like early Netflix, early Hulu, just toggling between the two or between the many at this point now?
Yeah, you know what was the kind of the aha moment for a lot of TV critics in the mid-teens? I would say about 2013, 2014, 2015 was realizing that there were more shows than you would ever possibly be able to watch. And not just like junk, but because, as I say, there was this quality movement of creators over to streaming from the movies, that there was just a lot of good storytelling going on, and a lot of critics wanted to recommend everything that was good out there, and they just reached that point where most of us realized we can't do it. We don't have the capacity, we don't have the eyeballs, we don't have the time.
Yeah.
So that's really been the challenge, not just for ordinary viewers. It's a challenge for everybody.
Right. As far as like people that are still kind of like into traditional television, will your book kind of like offer them, like how you said, cutting the cord? Will that like maybe persuade them to want to go ahead and cut the cord and just focus on the streaming?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that we wanted to make sure that the Primetimer Guide had was a complete but easy to follow cord cutting guide for people who've been on the edge, just on the fence, wondering, should I get rid of my $125 a month pay TV subscription? The answer to which, of course, is hell yes. But how do I do it? Because a lot of people, it's not just fear of change, but this idea that if I cut the cord and say no to cable or my satellite subscription, suddenly shows that I'm watching will be unavailable. And so that, I think, is a kind of an underlying concern, and most people don't really have to worry about that anymore, because the studios that produce all those shows that you watch on network and cable have now gone on to launch their own streaming services in the past 3 years. So you think about ABC, that's owned by Disney, they have Hulu and Disney Plus. You think about CBS, they've launched Paramount Plus. NBC, their parent company has launched Peacock, and most Fox shows are available on Hulu as well. And then there's a sub-tier of free streaming channels as well from those same creators. So even some legacy shows that you enjoy watching are probably on a free streaming channel like Pluto TV or Tubi or Freevee, the Amazon channel. So there is no reason at this point not to get rid of that cable or satellite subscription, and we show you how to. It's 3 very simple steps, and we always tell people, do some planning ahead of time, write down everything that you like to watch now, and figure out how you're going to get it on streaming, and then that way, once you've crossed over, not only are you saving a lot of money, but you have a better viewing experience.
Right. That makes a whole lot of sense too, because I just got my mom to transition over, and I'm like, because there's no point of doing the cable thing, and then you have a lot more options with streaming too, because you'll be exposed to things that you wouldn't normally see on the cable. So
the on-demand part too never should be underestimated. I mean, I made a reference earlier to using your VCR to watch TV in the 1990s to time shift your viewing. And then about 10 years after that, people started getting DVRs and usually renting them from their cable company. And that was, of course, a nice way to work. But just think about how things have changed since then, where basically every TV show is available on demand. And I actually have an antenna TV. I pull the signals from my local broadcasters out of the air, and then I do record them on an Amazon Fire TV recast box. And there are a number of other devices you can use to do that. But in addition, all these streaming channels inventory, lots of network and cable shows, and you can just, just spend all day long watching all the Law and Orders, or, for me, my old comfort show is MASH, or you can go to Pluto TV, and they have a channel on there that's just nothing but Jersey Shore. So, I mean, just that to me is the big change. It's just like all the content that is available on demand. You think it, you turn on your TV, a few clicks of the remote, and you're on it.
Right. So as far as like your book, can you give us a little bit more details on that, or things that I didn't ask you as far as the book goes?
Well, we wanted to make sure that the current inventory of high quality streaming shows were accounted for. And the thing that we understood at Primetimer was that while we recommend lots of shows for viewers, not every show is recommended for every viewer. And so we knew it was important to have enough finding aids in this guide so that people would figure out whether a show that we recommend is right for them. That's really our mantra. Is a show that we recommend right for you, right? You don't have to ask your doctor if these shows are right for you. You can ask Primetimer, and we'll tell you. We give you a bunch of lists in the back, for instance. If you like this kind of show, here are some other shows that you might like. If there are types of shows you like if you like very British drama, if you like rom-coms, if you like true crime docu-series, we've got long lists of recommendations for all of those. And again, I think kind of our superpower is that we go across the streaming channels, the big 8, as I call them now, the premium services that are out there, so that you don't have to rely on one streaming platform's algorithm for all of your viewing choices. So that really is, to me, kind of like the secret ingredient or the special sauce in our Primetimer guide, is that our editors not only did very concise reviews, but they did reviews that help you determine if this particular show is right with you and what kind of other shows it's like. We tried to get into its genome. What do these shows resemble in terms of other shows that you might have enjoyed that are out there? Because ultimately, this is a guide we want sitting next to people's remotes. We want people to go to that rather than scroll. And the way to do that is just to make it a very kind of enticing book. Like, you'd rather be picking this up and reading it and making a random discovery there than more screen time finding something to watch on the screen. And the feedback we're getting so far is that we've done that, and we've managed to do it despite reviewing over 1,000 TV shows, all of them recommended, and most of which have come out just in the past 5 years on streaming.
Very impressive. Very impressive. I think Valerie had a few things that she wanted to also add to.
Yeah, Aaron. I mean, this is a really thick book, and it's very, very interesting. And I just am wondering how you found the time. Did you have collaborators that helped, or?
Yeah. This is, and I took a cue, by the way, from Leonard Maltin, whose video guide was the top of the heap for many, many years. It was the thing that every good movie buff kept by their remote. And Leonard was always very generous with the credit. He made sure everybody knew that even though his name was on the cover, he couldn't have gotten it done without all of these contributors. And in particular, it was a team consisting of Jed Rosenzweig, my publisher at Primetimer, Brianna Westerveld, who has been an editor for us on other projects, and Mark Blankenship, who is now an editor at Primetimer, very talented guy, and just one of those people who can, he says his friends come to him for pop music suggestions because they're better than the algorithm on their Spotify. And he's also that way with television. He's largely responsible for our lists of shows. If you like this, you'll like that. He's just was invaluable in kind of like the editorial direction of the book. And then much of the content for this book was really digested from Primetimer itself. We posted hundreds of views from our staff and contributors, and that was largely what we gleaned it from. Primetimer was came at a time when we realized that the old way of doing TV criticism just wasn't going to work, where you gave people a thumbs up or thumbs down. If it's a thumbs down, if it's a bad show, it's just not worth anybody's time. And so we really tried to focus on things that we thought our readers might be interested in, and steering them to ones that aligned with their tastes. So the majority of the content in this guide is actually distilled from existing reviews. And then the other part of our army of editorial assistants were our readers. The Primetimer forums have thousands of people posting basically their reactions to and recaps of episodes of TV shows out there. And so we've taken hundreds of their comments, because we found that the person who is able to recommend a show to somebody else is often somebody who's already a fan of that show and has watched all the episodes. And we often found, going through the comments in our Primetimer forums, just somebody who spot on nailed why this show works. And oftentimes they would say, I didn't know that I would like this show so much, and here's why I did. So all of these people, our staff, our contributors, and then our great Primetimer forums super fans, we were able to draw from all of their content and distill it into the reviews that you see here in the Primetimer guide. But all that said, it was over a year in the making, and what we're hoping is that we get a strong response and a lot of feedback, so we can do it again for next year as well, and turn it into an annual would be our hope.
Well, that answered my question about what you're going to do next. So how can we find you? How can our readers find you if they have questions or comments?
So primetimer.com is where we are every day, posting new content about TV shows, as well as the Primetimer podcast. And you can sign up for our weekly newsletter, Primetimer Recommends, right there. And there's links there to the Primetimer guide as well. And we've set up a separate site at primetimerguide.com with direct links, so that you can buy it at any number of sites. And of course, you can order it any place that you buy books.
Are you still in Kansas City?
No, we just moved back to Illinois. This is actually where we lived before we moved to Kansas City. So yeah, I'm in the Chicago area now again.
Okay, well, if I'm ever there, I'll contact you. And we had such a great time being on the board of the Television Critics Association years ago, and those were the good old days.
Good old days, yeah, yeah. Get two newspaper people in the room, and they can always talk about how the sad state of journalism since they left it.
Exactly. Well, T, if you have anything else, please speak up. Otherwise, go ahead.
I don't think that you were amazing with answering the questions, and it's very straightforward. I think people will look forward to reading the book. I actually went on Amazon and checked out a couple of the reviews. It looked great. Valerie gave me an opportunity to read some of it, and yeah, I think it's a good look, especially for people that are trying to transition over into streaming.
Yeah, send me your email, and I'll be happy to send you the full VIP copy here, so that you can at least have an electronic copy of it. And then if you want a print version, it'll have info for that too.
Go ahead and put it in the chat, T, if you want, right now before we close, and he can get it together. I don't even know, Aaron, if I still have I doubt your email is the same as it was. Do you want to put your email in the chat as well?
Suggest you subscribe to this channel for the next Hollywood Times Live.